Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Whether or Not. We have a fun-filled episode filled with Thanksgiving treats, including a Thanksgiving special that will be aired at the end. So stick around. Whether or Not starts right now. Hello again and welcome to this week's show of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Bree Guy.
And I'm your guest host, Ryan Gold from Up in the Air. And tonight, we're going to have a collection of people from both Whether or Not and Up in the Air, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yes, but first we have nature in the news.
A new study by researchers at the Australian National University, ANU, could help us understand how our planet was formed. Researchers are confident they now have first-hand proof that Earth's inner core is solid. They came up with a way to detect shear waves or J waves in the inner core, a type of wave which can only travel through solid objects. If their results are correct, the inner core shares some similar elastic properties with gold and platinum. They say the inner core is like a time capsule. If we understand it, we'll understand how the Earth was formed and how it evolves. Inner core shear waves are so minuscule and feeble, they can't be observed directly. Detecting them has been considered the holy grail of global seismology since scientists first predicted the inner core was solid back in the 1930s and 40s. Their so-called correlation wave field method looks at the similarities between the signals at two receivers after a major earthquake, rather than the direct wave arrivals. The study shows these results can be used to indicate the existence of J waves and infer the shear wave speed in the inner core. While this scientific information about shear waves is important, what this research tells us about the inner core is even more exciting.
Last week, our very own Patrick Wright touched on the wildfires impacting California. As the fires burn and continue to ravage the state, many people who don't even live in the burned communities are beginning to feel the effects of those wildfires. Northern California, known for tall redwoods and bustling vineyards, is becoming enshrouded by some pretty poor air quality. Bloomberg reports air quality from Sacramento down to the Central Valley and over to San Francisco Bay has now reached unhealthy levels. According to Air Now, a U.S. air quality tracking service created by the Environmental Protection Agency, people in these areas may begin to experience some adverse health effects. Residents of Chico and Paradise, where some of the more major fires have occurred, are experiencing very unhealthy levels linked to more serious side effects. It is expected to take until the end of November for local fire officials to completely contain the fires.
When it comes to climate change, many tend to think negatively towards the topic. But what if climate change could actually help to create more jobs? According to a new study, tests were ran to see if the impacts of cutting coal power plant jobs, while at the same time hiring new employees for an approach called bioenergy coupled with carbon capture, which is also known as BECCS. The model indicates that it would not only retain the 40,000 jobs currently held in the coal industry, but in addition, it would help to create 22,000 new jobs in the forestry and transportation sectors by nearly 2050. BECCS is a proposed technology specialized in carbon capture and helping to reduce the release of greenhouse gases. Though there are some limitations, such as not considering potential substitution of coal with other low-carbon options like renewables, along with the model not including any equilibrium in the economy. Hopes are in store as this could in turn ease the transition for coal workers who could potentially lose their jobs in the coming decades.
So our special Thanksgiving show continues, and Patrick has a feature up next about Thanksgiving travel tips and how you should be prepared.
According to AAA, 54.3 million Americans will be traveling this Thanksgiving holiday, with 48.5 million taking to the roads. I have some tips on packing your luggage and some tasty road snacks for the family.
Holiday travel and the stresses associated are here. To help ease some of the stress, I'm going to show you how I packed a week's worth of clothing and things into these two bags. First, go through the checklist of the odd things that you may have, such as beauty and grooming essentials, technology, and of course, as a college student, a few books. The biggest room saver for a suitcase will be to fold and roll up shirts and pants like so to help compress the clothing down. When done, these should sit nicely in the suitcase. In between some layers of clothing, place dryer sheets to lock in the fresh smell of your clothes during the drive. When done packing, lay everything out in a place you will remember for when you leave. Just don't forget to grab your charging devices before you close the trunk. No road trip is complete without snacks. To keep things healthy, I would recommend some trail mix or granola bars that will still taste good yet quench the feeling of hunger. The same thing will apply to fruits and veggies, ranging from carrots and apples to pineapple. To keep these cool, place in a small thermal lunchbox to enjoy later on. But don't forget to stay hydrated as you head on your way to family and friends.
As always, keep your eyes on the road, limit distractions, and drive safely to start this holiday season off right. For Weather or Not, I'm Patrick Wright.
"2018 has been a wet year in the central and especially in the eastern United States, where many cities are on pace for their wettest year on record. You can see a dozen cities on this map from the Weather Channel where they have recorded their highest year-to-date precipitation through November 7th. A persistent southward dip in the jet stream over the central and eastern United States throughout most of the spring and the summer months was one of the reasons for these parts of the country receiving much more precipitation than normal in 2018. Hurricane Florence also contributed to parts of the southeast and mid-Atlantic states receiving plenty of rain. Here in central Pennsylvania, as of Wednesday, November 14th, we have received 56.53 inches of total precipitation, which includes all frozen precipitation that is melted. The only year with more total precipitation in State College's 125-year history of record keeping was in 1996, when State College received 59.3 inches of precipitation. With more than a month to go in 2018, State College only needs 2.78 inches more of precipitation to break the record.
The corn crop yields of Lancaster County in southeastern Pennsylvania may be in jeopardy by 2050. Climate models are forecasting rising temperatures in Pennsylvania and throughout the northeastern United States. Researchers expect the number of 95-degree days to increase during the key stages of the corn's growth cycle and dry conditions during the corn's reproductive stages. While the number of the corn plants itself will likely experience no serious decline, the amount yielded during the harvest is expected to decline. Farmers will likely need to change their corn growing strategies in the future in order to yield the same amount of corn today. One strategy the team suggests is for farmers to increase the amount of irrigation available to their land.
School buses might be the next mode of transportation to join the zero emissions movement. Right now, White Plains, New York is testing the state's first ever fleet of electric school buses. Their 5 electric buses are called singing buses by students because they play a 4-tone melody for safety since they run so quietly. Each electric bus in White Plains costs $365,000, which is more than 3 times the price of a new diesel bus. Due to this price, it should not be surprising that these electric buses are still a rarity across the country. Of the about 480,000 school buses in the United States, only a few hundred are fully electric. But this number will hopefully rise in the coming years since the price of buses will drop as the new technology advances. Electric buses are catching on because state officials hope to limit children's exposure to harmful exhaust from old diesel buses, and they do not want to keep releasing harmful carbon emissions into the atmosphere that drive global warming. Here in State College, CATA tested a zero-emissions electric bus earlier this year with the possibility of purchasing a few more in the future. CATA buses currently operate on compressed natural gas, but the bus company hopes to further reduce its emissions with electric buses in the future.
Last week, in conjunction with PEMA, PennDOT, and the American Red Cross, the National Weather Service in State College celebrated Winter Weather Awareness Week in Pennsylvania. According to the National Weather Service, one of the key lessons from natural disasters over the last several years is that individuals must be prepared to deal with the effects of hazardous weather conditions. In order to aid in this, the National Weather Service released safety tips for different types of severe winter weather. One tip was winter is the most dangerous time of the year for drivers. Nearly 3 out of every 4 winter weather-related deaths occur on our highways. When roads are snow-covered or icy, slow down and drive very carefully. Another tip was to dress warmly for the cold weather. Several layers of loose-fitting clothing are better than one tight-fitting garment. Mittens are warmer than gloves, and don't forget your hat, since the body's greatest heat loss occurs through your head. Wind chill, the combination of cold temperatures and wind, can be a real problem. A 20-mile-an-hour wind makes a bearable 30 degrees feel like a bitter 17 degrees. This can have adverse effects on your body, and the strong wind increases the danger of frostbite or hypothermia.
For each year during the past quarter century, the world's oceans have absorbed an amount of heat energy that is 150 times the energy humans produce as electricity annually, according to a study conducted by researchers at Princeton and the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at the University of California, San Diego. The strong ocean warming the researchers found indicates that the Earth is more sensitive to fossil fuel emissions than previously thought. Scientists know that the ocean takes up roughly 90% of the excess energy produced as Earth warms, so knowing the actual amount of energy makes it possible to estimate the surface warming we can expect. The researchers' findings suggest that if society is to avert temperatures from rising above that mark, emissions of carbon dioxide, the chief greenhouse gas produced by human activities, must be reduced by 25% compared to what was previously estimated. Co-authors used Scripps high-precision measurements of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the air to determine how much heat the oceans have stored during the time span they studied. They measured ocean heat by looking at the combined amount of oxygen and CO2 in the air, a quantity they call atmospheric potential oxygen, or APO. By comparing the changes in APO they observed with the changes expected due to fossil fuel use and carbon dioxide uptake, the researchers were able to calculate how much APO spread from the ocean becoming warmer. That amount corresponds to the heat energy content of the ocean.
So those were some very interesting stories today. They were also informative.
Oh yes, I think my favorite though was Logan's about climate change. I really, really liked that one.
Yeah, no, me too. But earlier in the show, we asked you more about the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. So what are the max sustained winds allowed for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloons? Was it A, 26 miles per hour, B, 15 miles per hour, C, 23 miles per hour, or D, 34 miles per hour? And if you answered C, you are correct. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloons are filled with helium, making them extremely delicate when it comes to the wind. If winds are above 23 miles per hour sustained, the parade organizers will ground the balloons. The same thing will occur with winds also gusting at or above 30 miles per hour.
The regulations were put into place after an incident in 1997 when gusty winds blew a cat-in-the-hat balloon into a light post, injuring a couple spectators. The balloons have only been grounded once in the parade's history in 1971 when the torrential rains moved through New York City.
Wow, oh my gosh, I did not know
Yeah,
that.
that's kind of
crazy.
scary.
Those balloons are huge, so like
Yeah.
I can't even imagine one just like flying out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, that's
But
pretty
I'm
scary.
so excited for the parade this year though. I always watch it with my mom, so I'm really excited.
I'm excited too.
Yes. But speaking of Thanksgiving, we also have another little Thanksgiving treat from our shows to yours.
Thanksgiving, a moment in history with peace.
A time to indulge in our taste buds.
A time to laugh and smile.
A time to feel at home.
A time to gather with friends.
And family from all around.
A time to give thanks for all that we have.
And all that we hope for in the years to come. From our family
To yours.
Happy Thanksgiving!